Sunbelt bowl projections. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. All right, we'll get to the bowl projections here momentarily. Can the Ragin Cajuns make the college football playoffs? And we'll recap what was not a very good weekend for Sunbelt basketball. But we start off with the Sunbelt Bowl projections, and we're going to stick with one. Everybody does them. So I'm going to stick with Brett McMurphy. I don't know how accurate he is or if he's just the one in my timeline. I'm sure my guy Bill Bender does them. I'm sure they do them at CBS Sports. I'm sure they all do at ESPN. We're going to take Brett McMurphy so we can follow along as he goes. All right. Last year, the Sunbelt had 12 teams in a bowl game, most of any conference. He's got, I believe, as of Monday, all right, today's episode is on Tuesday, but as of Monday, he has 8, and it doesn't include somebody who I think might make it. Interestingly enough, all right, we'll get into that. All right, so we'll start from... We'll go in reverse order of greatness. That's not the word I wanted. We'll go in earliest bowls first, okay? And so, and some of these teams still have work to do, all right? I have the Sunbelt records. I didn't go find everybody else's records. Say levy. So to begin with, Brett McMurphy from the Action Network, he actually has Arkansas State 5-4, taking on Buffalo in the Camellia Bowl. And I believe that's where Arkansas State went last year. They do still have some work to do. It is on December 14th. Arkansas State is 5-4, coming off that, obviously, disappointing loss to the Cajuns. They have Georgia State at home. I'm sorry, they're at Georgia State. It should still be a win. They get Monroe and Old Dominion at home. So nothing for sure, but they should be able to win one, if not 2 of those, maybe even 3 of those. They may win all of those games, and all of a sudden they got 8 wins. All right, so Arkansas State to the Camellia Bowl. Maybe a little bit disappointing going back to the same bowl. Again, the Cajuns probably would come up a lot over the next few weeks, right? They've gone to 7 New Orleans Bowls, and part of the reason that wore off, they won... What did they say? 1, 4, 5. They're 5-2 in the New Orleans Bowl. All right. They lost to Southern Miss, and they just lost to Jacksonville State. So it does get repetitive, although it's in terms of getting a crowd, at least for the Cajuns, the best thing is the New Orleans Bowl. But fans want something more, and maybe they'll get it this year. All right. Elsewhere, McMurphy after Camellia Bowl, he's got in the Boca Raton Bowl, he's got Marshall, which has already qualified. They've got 6 wins. They're taking on Bowling Green. That would be a good ball game. And, Marshall still has, I say an outside shot, but it's not that much of an outside shot, right? They probably have to win out, and Georgia Southern has to lose 1. And all of a sudden, Marshall is looking at the Sunbelt East Championship. They are both tied. They're both 4-1. Georgia Southern has the head-to-head. So Marshall looking at the Boca Raton Bowl, which is a nice trip out of West Virginia for mid-December. All right, that's it. Yeah, the Boca Raton Bowl, and wait for it, Boca Raton. All right, if you don't know where that is, it is south of West Palm Beach. It is north of Fort Lauderdale. All right. After that, in the New Orleans Bowl, you get Georgia Southern. All right. I don't know if he thinks that that's going to be the championship or the champion. I can't imagine that being the case right now. It's kind of based on a little projections in terms of who you think is going to win. But they're going to oddly enough take on Jacksonville State. I will say Jacksonville State has turned their season around. They got embarrassed by Coastal first thing out of the gate, and they're looking to go bowling. So that's a good job by Rich Rod. All right, he's had some not so great games this year, but Brett McMurphy has them going to the New Orleans Bowl against Georgia Southern in New Orleans. Obviously, that is December 19th. All right, it's Dave Schultz, Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. One team that's got to do a little bit of work, Coastal Carolina. They're not hosting. They would be in the Cure Bowl, Staff DNA Cure Bowl against South Florida. I think South Florida's got to do some work as well. Coastal's got 5 wins. They're 5-4. They just had that big win over App State. Here is what I would think Cajuns fans would love. I don't know how many fans are going to go. You have to see when it lands in the calendar. It is on a Friday. The Gasparilla Bowl in Tampa, Florida. Brett McMurphy has the Cajuns playing Boston College. And I think that's what Cajuns fans want. They don't want to play a good power or group of 4 squad. They want to play a group of 5, I guess. They want to play a power 4 squad, right? They want to step up. They want to see if they can compete. You know, is playing Jacksonville State nice? Sure. Lose to them, you're upset. Beat them, yay. You want to play somebody from the ACC, the Big Ten, the SEC, whatever the case is. That's who you want to play, right? So the Cajuns, according to Brett McMurphy, are in line for the Gasparilla Bowl. All right, that's pretty good. All right, against Boston College, who took out my Orange on a crappy block how do you have an illegal block on an onside kick? I don't get it, but it is what it is. All right, elsewhere, JMU, they already have 7 wins, but because they have a couple of losses in the Sunbelt, they're a few games back, or at least 1 game back. JMU's taking on Ohio in the famous Idaho Potato Bowl. So that's not until December 23rd. So you actually get a chance to, finish up school and practice a little bit, get the game in, and then you're back home for Christmas. All right. That's not the worst thing. Obviously, playing in Boise, they're going to have a lot of fun, right? I'm sure they put on a great show. It's going to be cold, pack that long underwear, obviously. It will be cold. All right. And I think we have 2 more. All right. So the other one is, here's one. Brett McMurphy's got ULM taking on UConn it's the 68 Ventures Bowl. That's in Mobile. It used to be the Mobile Bowl. So he's got ULM, who's got to win one of its last 3 ball games to get in. All right. And that's not an easy task. I don't think they'll be favored in any one of them. And they also have Texas State taking on North Texas, which is a nice matchup in New Mexico, right next door. So that's the 8 squads that Brett McMurphy has. We'll get to the one that he doesn't have just yet. Camellia Bowl has Arkansas State against Buffalo, Boca Raton Bowl, Marshall against Bowling Green, New Orleans Bowl, Georgia Southern against Jacksonville State, Cure Bowl, Coastal Carolina versus South Florida, Gasparilla Bowl, Cajuns versus Boston College. So he must have the Cajuns winning the Sunbelt. Idaho Bowl has JMU versus Ohio, 68 Ventures Bowl, ULM versus UConn, and Texas State versus North Texas in the New Mexico Bowl. The one team he doesn't have yet in there is South Alabama, right? South Alabama is 4-5. They have the Cajuns this weekend, and they're 9-point underdogs. We'll just, for the sake of this conversation, they're going to lose that ball game, all right? But they have Southern Miss on the road, should be a win. Southern Miss just fired their offensive coordinator, Chip Long, and Texas State at home. If South Alabama is playing Texas State for the right to go bowling, and Texas State has already qualified for a bowl game and is, I don't want to say playing out the string, but just has had this not living up to the hype season, it could be interesting for South Alabama to win their last 2 bowl games to go bowling. It would be for the 3rd straight year, right? They lost 2 years ago in the New Orleans Bowl. They won last year, and then they would go for 3 straight. So trying to build something there, and you got so much talent. I'm not going to start now, but hopefully South Alabama can hang on to that talent and watch it grow, because you got some pretty good talent on that squad. All right, let's take a timeout. So Brett McMurphy, 8 teams in. I still think South Alabama can get in. That would make it 9 if somehow ULM gets a win in there somewhere to get to their 6th win. All right, let's take that timeout. When we come back, we will we'll talk about whether the Cajuns can make the playoffs. We will do that right after I tell you about Roy. All right, Sunbelt fans, listen up. You need to download the Roy app. You have heard us talk about Roy this season and how they are revolutionizing the NIL industry. Roy allows you, the fan, to have a say in who gets the NIL money. And here's what I absolutely love about Roy. You get your money back if that player transfers. Roy is helping us keep our team intact, and it's actually good for the game long term. All right. This week's Roy Player of the Game Roy Player of the Week is going to be Texas State's backup quarterback, Brad Jackson, seeing his first real action this season for the Bobcats, and he was outstanding. He ran 17 times, 126 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I want to say filling in, but taking over for the banged up Jordan McLeod, who came in with a bad ankle into the ballgame. And this could be the first time that G.J. Kinney is going to hand over his team to a high school quarterback, a recruit. That would be in 2025. You can show your support for Brad Jackson by depositing a little appreciation onto that player's account. To do that, download the Roy app, and you can see what the logo looks like if you're watching on YouTube, or go join Roy.com. Now let's spotlight the Roy Lockdown Player of the Week, which is, as I mentioned, Brad Jackson, the backup quarterback, and eventually, potentially, the future starting quarterback for the Bobcats, big in their 38-17 win over ULM. We're going to throw some money into his account on Roy. Every contribution counts, 10, 20 bucks. It all adds up, and you're going to help your favorite player stay put. Join me and show some love for Brad Jackson. Download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com today. Use promo code LOCKEDON. Every athlete from every team is there. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players. Change the game. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's talk Ragin Cajuns football again. It's going to be repetitive. It is what it is. We did tweet something out, and then we tweeted it out on Sunday morning, and it was about the Cajuns' chances to get into the playoff. I will not teasing my nephew, but I sent it out to my nephew just so he would see that. He's the Samo. And I said the Cajuns were in the running for the college football playoff. Boise State is at 73%. Army is at 28%. Oddly enough, Boise State has the loss, although it is to the number 1 team in the country, Oregon. And Washington State and the Cajuns are both at 9%. Apparently, they did put up a billboard in Lafayette noting said chances for the Cajuns. And so make sure we understand who gets in. It's the college champions. You get the 4 big ones, right? And then the highest rated group of 5 team, most likely the champions. So let's go and see what Boise State has to do. Again, they squeaked by Nevada. It's 28-21, but it was a late score by the Wolfpack. They're at San Jose State. That's this week. Okay. San Jose State, 6-3. They're at Wyoming. Wyoming, 2-7. That's going to be a win. And then they're hosting Oregon State 4-5. So the best chance for Boise to lose another game is going to be this weekend against San Jose. The other team standing in the way of the Cajuns potentially being in the playoff is going to be Army. They are, I believe, still undefeated. They're 9-0. All right. And they had a close ball game against North Texas. Didn't play particularly well against North Texas or Air Force the last couple of weeks. I think the QB may be out. They have Notre Dame next weekend. Army is actually off this weekend. I don't think, suffice it to say, a loss to top 10 Notre Dame isn't going to change Army's standing all that much. It won't change their standing all that much in terms of the playoff. All right. They do have UTSA at home, and then they have the Army-Navy game. I think it's going to be so weird that the conference, right, that's Conference USA, is going to have their championship game before the Army-Navy game, because the Army-Navy game wanted to preserve a little Rose Bowl-ish, and I all love the Army-Navy game. Don't kid me. Don't kid yourself. But Army-Navy kind of wants to be on its own, which I don't blame them. All right, sort of like the Rose Bowl. But I they don't want any distractions. It's all focused on them, outside of maybe college basketball. But for football-wise, it's generally all focused on them. So they could play twice in a row in the conference championship game and in the Army-Navy game. If they split, we'll see. Navy has slipped a little bit. And this is what the Cajuns need, right? They need to win out. They will be favored in every single one of their ball games. They have South Alabama this week, dangerous ball game, second leading offense in the conference. They get Troy, I believe, and then they finish up at ULM again. Sneaky tough, I guess. Is that what I'm going to say? Sneaky tough. That's not right. It's not going to be sneaky. No one's going to be. You're not getting sneaked up on. So yeah, the Cajuns finish up with South Alabama, Troy, and ULM. They do have a nice little, again, home streak. They're home for 3 weeks, so that's got to be nice. I mean, they have an outside shot. All right, I know it's 9%, and we're all going Dumb and Dumber with So you say there's a chance. There's a legit chance. Now, Boise's got to lose to San Jose State. That's got to happen. When that doesn't happen, the Cajuns' chances are going to be a little slimmer. All right. Cajuns also probably have to, also have to win the Sunbelt championship game. The more wins they rack up, by the time they get to ULM, that may be decided. We'll see what happens on the other side. If somehow Georgia Southern doesn't lose and ULM beats the Cajuns and that's their only loss, my head's going to explode trying to figure out that tiebreaker, because those teams did not play. That's going to hurt my head. And it would be, sorry to say, devastating if the Cajuns are looking to host the Sunbelt Championship and lose to ULM. All right, ULM is going to do everything they can to win that ball game. Don't get me wrong, but the Cajuns can't lose that game. I mean, they can, but it would be absolutely devastating. Even if you're playing in the Sunbelt Championship game, you've lost what little chance you had at the playoff. And I know they're doing one game at a time, and Desimo is like, we're still at 6-7 club. We haven't accomplished anything, right? They haven't clinched the West. They haven't clinched the Sunbelt Championship game at home yet. But they absolutely, and again, have a shot. Cajuns fans need to be rooting hard for the San Jose Spartans, right? Again, Army losing to Notre Dame isn't going to change anything. That's like Boise losing to Oregon, although that was by 3 in Oregon. This is probably it at, I don't know. This is at home, is it? Oh, is it at? It's at Notre Dame. Okay. It appears it's at Notre Dame. Wouldn't be surprised if that was in New York, but it appears it's in Notre Dame. So the big ball game is for somehow San Jose to take down Boise, and then those chances are going to change in a big way. I didn't even look at Washington State because I think the Cajuns may be able to overtake them. So Cajuns have a shot, and it would be amazing in the first year of the playoff if somehow the Cajuns squeaked in, and they will have earned it. They wouldn't be backdooring their way in. They would have earned it with only the home loss to Tulane. All right, let's take one more timeout. We'll come back. We will talk college basketball. It was not a great weekend for Sunbelt hoops. We'll do that when we come back after I tell you about FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, newcomers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. We've done Sunbelt Bowl projections, Brett McMurphy of the Action Network. Then can the Cajuns make the playoffs? Going to need some help. And now let's talk about what happened basketball-wise. We shall say, I did mention it in yesterday's episode. Arkansas State gave Alabama, who many consider the best team in the nation, all they could handle on Friday night in Tuscaloosa. This game was tied. Alabama does win the ball game 88-79, but the ball game was tied at 68 with 6 minutes left to go in the ball game. And you gotta when you're pulling off one of these major upsets, you got to be able to finish, and they couldn't. I guess it was actually with 7 minutes left to go. Joseph Pinion made a layup, and it was knotted up at 68. Alabama goes on, what was it, a 20-11 run to end the ball game. The big thing right now is he's scored well so far this season, but his shot is not falling. Kobe Julian did lead Arkansas State with 20 points, doing Kobe Julian kind of things, 10 of 12 from the free throw line, except his three ball is not falling so far. He has not shot well from three so far this year. He was 2 of 8 versus Alabama, 1 of 6 versus Akron, so just 3 of 14. If that comes, all right, when that starts falling, and we saw him do it for Lafayette for a couple of years, helping them win a Sunbelt championship, Arkansas State's going to be tough. All right. Arkansas State's going to be very tough. That was, and by far, that was the best performance for a Sunbelt team this weekend. It goes up and down from there. So let's check out. Again, congratulations to Arkansas State for playing a well of a ball game. Thing is, you got to be able to play that well each and every night. Not always easy getting up for some of the lesser opponents before the Sunbelt Conference, and even in the Sunbelt Conference, you got to be able to get up for those games each and every night. All right, who does Arkansas State? Let me see who they have next. I don't even know who they have next. Or are they playing Little Rock next? Isn't that nice? All right, so they are playing Little Rock tonight. That's awesome. All right, so Little Rock, obviously a former member of the Sunbelt, is playing. Little Rock is playing at Arkansas State tonight. Very cool. All right. Elsewhere in the Sunbelt this weekend, basketball-wise, South Alabama did sneak past Nichols 70-64. Richie Riley's former stomping grounds. I think he was only there for 1 year, maybe 2, before he took the South Alabama job. I'm not sure. Nichols is not easy. Nichols, I think, beat South Alabama last year in a game that would never end. That was in Mobile. We'll see if South Alabama usually takes a good month or so before we know if South Alabama, what they're going to do in finding out their identity, because you always get so many transfers in. Georgia Southern, a heck of an effort against UNC Wilmington, coming up short, 92-84. They gave up 58 points in the second half after only allowing 34 in the first half. So Georgia Southern falls to 1-1. Tulane disposes of Monroe, 80-64. Monroe falls to 1-2. Mississippi State 2-0. They're putting up a lot of points so far this year, and they beat Georgia State 101-66. Not a competitive ball game. Texas State blows out McMurphy, and I don't know who that is, 102-62. So Texas State goes to 2-0. On Saturday, Arizona blows out Old Dominion, really an embarrassing loss, 102-44. Arizona, top 10 team. They're really good, but that's a poor showing by Old Dominion. Toledo goes into Marshall and takes down the Thundering Herd 90-80. All right. East Carolina beats Coastal Carolina 63-59. Troy went into New Orleans. Here's a win. They beat New Orleans 78-61. And how about this one? Norfolk State improves to 3-0. They beat James Madison 83-69 in a game that was a 1-point game at half, and Norfolk State blew them out by 15 in the second half. Wow. They went up to, Norfolk and lost, not ODU, but they lost in a big way to Norfolk State. So we'll keep an eye on James Madison. And on Sunday, Wisconsin disposed of App State in a ballgame that was also not very close, 87-56. Do we have the standings here yet? Because no one is looking all that great so far. Troy has won a couple of ball games. Texas State has won a couple of games. Old Dominion has lost both their ball games. Their first game, they very much so could have won that game. Everybody seems App State's 1-2. UL Monroe's 1-2. So no big Power 4 wins. I think I said Power 5 before, but Power 4 wins so far for the Sunbelt. And again, Arkansas State gave everything they had and almost took down Alabama. But it's tough. You got to play 40 minutes, and you have a 5-minute lull. And unfortunately, I think they had one at the beginning of the game, and then they came back and had one at the end of the ball game, and that makes it all that much more difficult. We can quickly go over what is going on this week. On Monday night, while I'm recording this, Georgia Southern having a little bit of a difficult time with Augusta, 51-46 in the second half. Marshall hosting Southern Indiana, all Thundering Herd 45-28. We did mention Arkansas State and Little Rock playing tonight. Pretty cool. Big schedule on Tuesday. Ole Miss taking on South Alabama. James Madison, Mary Baldwin. Radford is hosting Old Dominion. Southern Miss taking on Loyola New Orleans. UL Monroe is in Rice. Texas State taking on TCU. That's a nice ball game. All right. And let's see what we got on Wednesday. Georgia State's at Jacksonville State. Coastal Carolina at NC State. Houston hosting the Cajuns. Wow, that's a huge ball game for the Cajuns. We'll see if Houston can have a letdown with their big win over Auburn. Big loss to Auburn. They lost to Auburn. And Troy is taking on Arkansas. Be careful, John Calipari. Be careful. Monroe taking on Ecclesia. I'm not sure what that is. It sounds either like a disease or something you need a prescription for. Old Dominion hosting Maryland Eastern Shore. Georgia Southern taking on North Carolina Central. Those games are Friday. And then, of course, you have a full slate Saturday and Sunday. So you do. And Troy's going to Oregon. Jeez, Troy's got a nice schedule. See if they can pull one of those wins off. By the way, Arkansas did not play well. Was that in Lipscomb? They did not play well against Lipscomb. We'll see. Troy may have a shot against those Razorbacks. All right. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll be back again tomorrow with another episode of Lockdown Sunbelt. We are approaching 1,620 subscribers, so we're going to be around that probably 1,800 mark come the end of the year, and that's awesome. Basically doubling it from one year to the next. Can't ask for much more than that. So I really appreciate the support. Although I guess I am asking for a little bit more than that. It'd be nice if we're at that round number of 2,000 for 2025. All right. In fact, why not make it 2025? See if we can get to 2,025 subscribers. It's amazing what you think of when you just start talking it out loud. Again, thank you so much for tuning in. Back again tomorrow with another episode of Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day.